Welcome back to another Jazz basketball breakdown. Tough loss against the Rockets in a game where it felt like we really shouldn't, going into it, we should not get beat by these guys. The way things have gone, especially lately for us. But they came out physical and ready to battle for this game, and it took us until the second half.
Second game in a row.
Yes.
We got slapped pretty hard first half against OKC. Didn't seem to be ready for the fight from the start of this one. The refs from the start seem to be letting both teams get after each other, which favors a team like Houston and then their playing style. You know, I'm not one to ever really blame it on the refs, but there are certain styles that teams benefit from, and we need to wake up. We need to grow up in that way quickly.
Well, and it's funny is the whole time, the second quarter, they really start super, super physical against us. And the whole time it's just like, how many times it's like, me and you, my dad, we need a guy like Chris Dunn to come in the game and respond to this physicality. He will come in and respond to the physicality. We need a guy like Chris Dunn, and we don't ever bring him back in. And then third quarter, he starts again, comes in, and he starts a fight with Jabari Smith, and all of a sudden it ignites our team. It's like, why? We know we have that guy on our team. Just go bring him in.
Yeah, and it seems like second half we adjusted the way that we sub players in and how long they played quite a bit, more than any other game I think we played this season.
Yeah, we really didn't play our bench besides Clarkson and Kessler at all.
Yeah, Agbaji only got a few minutes there, Olynyk just a little bit to get in there and match up with the physicality and have a defensive squad, which we've talked for a while, we think is really the strength of our team, our defense being able to play into our offense. And because every time that we do that, we still score plenty of points.
Which is funny is this is a game you would think you'd want to give Agbaji more minutes, especially when he was defensively dominating.
How many blocks did he have?
I think 3 is what he was credited with.
He affected another one for sure.
Affected another one and had some seriously physical defensive plays throughout this game. And it was like, why is he not? And I mentioned to you during the game, he's a guy who you can tell offensively he has lost all of his confidence. And it makes sense because in this game, he gets one shot, he misses the shot, he gets subbed out the very next possession.
Yep, and there was a stretch this season where he was playing super confident, and along with his great defense, and it was once some of our players come back from injury where, his minutes all of a sudden are being toyed with and pulled and going down to town. All of a sudden, confidence wanes. There's some players that are like that. Not every athlete out there is able to play through those moments. He's one of them that obviously is affected by playing time and how much his role is, and unfortunately, it changes his portfolio, his scouting report as a player from being a high level role player to spot minutes off the bench.
Yeah,
and that's one that kills me. I'd like to see him be able to get more minutes and be able to play back into the confidence and be a contributor because he's tough.
Especially, like you said, in a game like this where they're coming out physically popping us, he gets subbed in and our bench unit is struggling.
Getting pounded.
And he comes in and defensively is just all over the court. Several saves, several fast break, easy plays for them.
Yeah.
And still just gets really, really doesn't touch the court in the third quarter. I don't know. You're adjusting, like you said, we made those adjustments, but it was like one of arguably our second best defensive player on the team. We barely let him touch the court. Yeah. And the minutes he played with Chris Dunn, those two freaking were menace on defense.
They have been right ever since we've had both of them on the squad. So second game in a row, we go down big time points in the first half. We battle back. We have enough in us to be able to get back in there. And we can obviously play with physical teams like this when we have players like Chris Dunn, like Sexton. Even Walker Kessler came in and made a real physical difference out there.
Yeah.
And we really adjusted and played a lot less John Collins minutes second half too, right? We noticed this game. In second game that we come back, we bring it back into tie or get a little bit of the lead. Last game we tied it with OKC going down the stretch and then find a way for it to kind of slip away from us down the stretch.
Yeah.
Kind of some of the struggles of a young team even though we're kind of playing kind of some more veteran players down the stretch, right? So, you made the mention that you'd like to see Keontae George, who didn't get any second half minutes, still get some play time through that. Talk us through that part.
These are the types of games he has to be able to be in to grow. He has to be able to get punched in the mouth in the league, kind of what they did with Cam Whitmore, right? There were several times he just got popped by Markin and stuff like that, and you even said, welcome to the league. Keontae needs that. Keontae needs a welcome to the league, right? Because it shows him that he needs to get stronger, but also he is a very confident, just like he has shown no fear several times throughout the season. And even when the moment when Holiday kind of goes nuts on him, he just kind of like, okay, psycho, like you could see he was just kind of like, all right. And then you don't play him at all. I'd like to see how he handles this style of game.
And he was really struggling getting over screens, and obviously there were some learning moments in the first half, but that's something that we feel that he needs to go through those obstacles and have that pain, even more minutes in the second half to experience it.
And it's so much more development with a player of just not playing him in the second half and saying, hey, we didn't play in the second half because you were struggling with this in the first half. Coach him on that in halftime, then let him go back out, see how he adjusts to it, and work with him as the game progresses.
Yeah.
Because even if you lose doing that, it's a win in the sense of development of what we're actually looking for this year.
Absolutely, and that's I had a whole conversation today at lunch, with somebody that says, we're winning, we need to do this. What exactly are we winning? We're going for the 11th place trophy, that's so development really is for the future one of the number one, if not the number one thing of this year, the goal. I really found it interesting that Holly Rowe kept insisting on how great Fred VanVleet was playing on Sexton. The guy that fouled out, the guy that Sexton was taking to the hole anytime he wanted.
How many times did Fred VanVleet just like trying to guard
Shook
Sexton?
him, man, over and over. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Fred VanVleet, he's a tough guard. He's tenacious. But we got Sexton, and no, Fred VanVleet is not all up in his mug, not all making his life hell. Sexton was going crazy out there on him. This was a game that I felt that we went a little bit too much into isolation.
Which, Sexton, who's been doing a good job at playmaking and stuff like that, he ends up, taking 27 shots, doesn't shoot a great efficiency doing it, and it's because of that.
I felt that his little jumper in the lane that he missed right in that last 20 seconds is a shot he normally makes.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That little floater or jumper that Clarkson had in the lane, that's something that he makes 80% of the time.
Right.
So those are two jumpers and shots that we would normally make. That's just kind of one that's a little frustrating to see. The way that we let them kind of get back into it easily, our turnover right there with the illegal screen that they called with Dylan Brooks kind of getting up on Clarkson, and Clarkson just kind of was insisting on kind of just nonchalantly dribbling right at the half-court line. When somebody's getting after you, there's a way to get past them, or if you're going to fully wait for the screen to set up.
Yeah. Going early, a lot of times in a moving screen on a big man, you could probably put 75% of the time that it's on the ball handler's fault.
Yep.
Now, if they hip into him, that's a different thing. But when a ball handler goes early and just mistimes it, it will always turns into a foul on the
big guy, the screener.
Big guy, but it's not necessarily their fault because the guard didn't let it develop.
Yep. So we really kind of mishandled the possessions right there towards the end, and it felt like we were up 3, had the ball. Their crowd was silent. We were in control.
Whoa. And what the possession either right before or like right after that, very same thing. We run a pick and roll, and Kessler's wide open for a dunk.
There's another situation late where, I can't remember who had the ball on the wing. Was it Sexton? We had Kessler right in the middle going towards the hoop. They had one defender. Right behind him was Markkanen in the corner. Hit one of the two.
Clarkson had the ball.
Was it Clarkson had the ball on the wing? Is that one as well?
Mm-hmm.
Hit one of the two. My goodness. We've got to have the efficiency as we're getting late into games to do this. One of the things that guarantees efficiency is get the ball to Lauri Markkanen. which we didn't do for crap the fourth quarter and overtime.
Not
and the
at
few
all.
times that we did, instant bucket.
Right.
Instant bucket or pass to Kessler for a dunk, right?
And the thing is, you even mentioned there was a lot of times when Clarkson takes the ball and goes down low and scores really easily, and he does that really well. And it's like, that's cool, right? You were doing that great tonight. That's why you ended up with 30-something points.
Mm-hmm. That was the majority of his buckets, yeah.
But we when you can count on one hand in overtime how many times Markkanen touches the ball, hell, maybe even fourth quarter in overtime, how many times he touches the ball. And what he took 18 shots tonight, 11 of them threes. You could 8 or 9 of those are probably catch shooting over a guy.
Yeah, with somebody closing out on him. A couple of the other times we kind of ran him around screens. There were a few times there as we got into fourth quarter and overtime. One particular I can remember that Sexton had the ball, and Markkanen was down in there in the post and had Dylan Brooks on him, one-on-one. And Sexton decides to dribble it away. Are we afraid of that matchup? I want that matchup all day long.
Every single time you take that matchup.
I want that matchup all day long. So it's sometimes that's one of the kind of knocks for me on Sexton is he doesn't understand how to hunt matchups and have the patience to, we talked about this last game as well, to post entry, and if it's not there, kind of throw it out, repost, to have the patience to do that. He always constantly wants to fly to the next thing. I've been super impressed with him on a lot of things, how he's finding the open shooter in the corners and how he's moving the ball around in portions of the game. I think the Sexton's playing an amazing level right now. That's one of the things that for me is a knock on him. And you see that we kind of talk and discuss knocks on every player, right?
Yeah.
And we seem to have kind of commenters that get mad when we mention the knocks of a certain player in the certain game or whatever. Every single player has positives and negatives. That's one of them on Sexton that I'd like to see really understand matchups, hunt matchups a little bit more. Be patient to get the matchup that we want and put it in Markkanen's hands, because the amount of gravity he has, the times that he'll pull a double or a triple team, and he's evolving as a player, finding that pass out of it. He's doing good.
That's one of the things I want to see. He had a couple passes that were so good tonight when he did get the ball, but we really don't get him the ball in the paint a whole lot, and he is a great post player, especially with his size and strength. There's very few players in the league that really can consistently stop him when he is in the paint. Now, I feel in the first half he was kind of shying away from that physicality almost. He seemed very just half asleep at times on the defensive side of the court, letting Sengun hit into him, and then Sengun's he's too good of a player at that point. It's a very easy bucket for Sengun. And then it once again, when that moment happened with Chris Dunn, he has a kind of a vicious rebound, and Chris Dunn starts that fight. All of a sudden, Markkanen was like, all right, I'm ready. You are a star. I need that from you the entire time you're on the court.
Yeah, came out a little bit nonchalant that first half. It really did. And he came out second half immediately, hit 2 threes right out the gate of the second half, right, and kind of caused them to call a real early timeout. So
and then proceeded to never touch the ball again.
Yeah, that's just so odd, man. So odd.
52 shots between Sexton and Clarkson, unless they're shooting crazy high numbers, is not a winning formula for our team.
I think that's not going to be that's not high enough of an efficiency usually, guys, to have a winning formula. That's true. And props to Sengun, heck of a talented player. The stuff that he does influences the game with his passing and the way that he kind of is able to shift his weight, and you can tell that he's got some real power down there in the hips and how he moves, and they were allowing him to really push on us and shove. Talented player, had a good game. I was mentioning to Cole here that he was actually drafted by Oklahoma City. That was one of their draft picks, and it was a draft night trade that they did with Houston to get him over there. You imagine if Sengun was on OKC right now?
Him and Holmgren as their bigs would be...
Mama, that would be a complete starting five. But, great setup for him. That the new coach is, playing a lot of usage through him and really making it happen. And it's a team that they've been kind of on a losing arc lately, but overall achieved better than what most people thought, than what I thought for this season. So heck of a player there, heck of a young player in Amen Thompson too. A couple of really strong defensive plays down the stretch that affected the game.
Mm-hmm. Man, he ends up having a play where this was, like I said, Kessler brought in really good physicality, and Kessler had some just studly defensive moments tonight. Also had some really bad, horribly timed defensive moments tonight. So it was kind of a weird game for Kessler, but it was good to see him get a lot of minutes. He has a play where he turns it over. Amen Thompson makes a great steal, and then Kessler just like two-hand
rooftops him
on
yep.
him to get the ball back, and that's that's a Chris Dunn specialty, right? You get a bad turnover, and you just go make the guy look bad after you do it.
Yep. He if I think the gap from Kessler, because he's a very strong shot blocker right now, I think the gap to him being a great shot blocker is the footwork before the time of the jump for the block.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch like Chet Holmgren play a couple nights ago, in his footwork early that he does to get in position, Kessler sometimes he'll have a 4 or a 5 foot gap between him and the player, and he still has his hands up and jumps and contests, and he's springy, he's athletic. But if he were able to do just a small shuffle that cuts that gap down in half before he needs to spring up like that, I think that's the difference of him being a great shot blocker to what he is right now, which is already a really, really good shot blocker in the NBA.
Well, and a perfect example of that is tonight. Is there was so many moments where he has just a little too much space on Sengun. Sengun just turns easily, boop, super easy.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a couple of times where as Sengun catches it, he takes that last step into him. So now Sengun still does it. He doesn't ever, I think, block one of those shots. He had a couple blocks on Sengun. Doesn't block one of those. But because that has been closed, Sengun now lobs it high and misses the shot.
Every time Sengun tried to go all the way to the rim, Kessler got it.
Yeah.
There was one
tried to dunk on him
end,
a couple times where it was like, what are you
you don't
doing?
want to do that. The one at the end, Sengun got in the overtime there where he took it in and kind of used the width of his body to get it up. But other than that, every time they took it all, they hoop, Kessler got it. But to me, if he can cut down those gaps and kind of have awareness of those gaps, that's what will take him to be a great shot blocker. Well, and for a second-year pro, he's on a great trajectory.
And some of it is Kessler needing to improve. Some of it is kind of we're playing a weird drop big, right? Because there seems to be a lot of times where on the pick and roll, he's just kind of standing under the hoop, and the guard's on their own trying to cover it, and their guard ends up getting an easy look. I wonder how much of that is Kessler just not wanting to leave the paint. How much of that is the style that we're trying to play defense there?
Yep, that's a good point. Man, I thought Jabari Smith showed a lot of talent tonight as he's evolving. You remember that last year, right out of the draft, a lot of the experts were saying, what a bust, and he's not living up to it. I think he's a really strong player in the making. And I think that his ability sometimes to really have our drop big be hostage and him to just pull up on a mid-range jumper and hit the shot was fantastic. Man.
Yeah.
And we didn't get to see Tari Eason tonight. Another really strong big for them that they got him like 17th or 18th pick. Man,
he's
what
a defensive
what a pickup that guy's been. So a lot of young players on that team, a lot of big salary moves they made in this offseason where you can see that they kind of expect to win right now. I think they were a little offended with us coming in, being higher up in the standings, the lowly Jazz that really haven't made the big splash signings like they made.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I feel that this is a game that we win 6, 7, 8 times out of 10
right
on their home court. That's kind of what it feels like right now where the teams are in a trajectory, but that may change as it goes along. This was the first game that we saw Will Hardy really change the minutes and shrink our bench. Usually it's 10, 11 guys getting at least 15, 16 minutes a game, everybody, sometimes 20. It's weird, it seems like. This game, he really shrunk it down. Is this something we see a little bit going farther on? That's farther, that word. Is this something we see kind of consistently now, or is this just kind of adjusting to a physical game that we need really to fight? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I also wonder if part of it is being less focused on development in a game like this because playing against another coach of his, right?
That's true.
Who wants to come in and be able to kind of show that and make those adjustments and stuff like that. I think a lot of that, all those things kind of tie into that. I would be really shocked to see consistently minutes like this strictly because Keontae George didn't really touch the court. much at all.
I would be against having him. I think he only had 9 minutes, did I tell you?
He didn't play at all in the second half. So whatever he did in the first half.
Whatever it was the first half is all he got.
And so I'd be surprised if this was if this was a consistent thing and more than a simple single game adjustment compared to, because we had just got done in a situation like this where we really lost it to start the fourth quarter when we were playing heavy bench minutes.
That's true. That happened against OKC.
Yes.
The gap really happened with that second unit for start of the fourth quarter. So that'll be interesting to see as it goes along. Once again, to us, we see it through the lens of wanting to develop our younger players for the future.
Right.
Games like this, this is probably one we'll look at and say, gosh, we probably could have won that, should have won. But
and truthfully, part of that also is why we're so heavily on wanting Lauri Markkanen to get the ball, because to be where we want to be in a few years, Markkanen needs to take that next step, which I believe he is, but allow him to take that next step as well. So it's not just like, oh, well, Markkanen's 26, 27. Markkanen's that age. You're not mad about him taking those minutes. Yes, because we're hoping he can take the spot of that number one just like superstar when we're really needing to make that run.
Yep, and ideally it would be something where we run through him a majority of the possessions, fourth quarter overtime, and see where that gets us. I think when we do that, we become a different team. Mm-hmm. We've shown that we can battle back with the toughest teams in the league. With mentioning OKC, battling back when we started poorly. We've shown that we can overcome poor starts and battle toughness, and even on the road, which has always been a Jazz are tough at home only, right? So we're showing some things, some positive signs, but more Markkanen down the stretch, play through him.
And it's funny is this is one of those games that if you just look at a box score, it's like, well, this guy shot bad numbers, this guy didn't shoot good numbers, whatever. This seemed like a game where we were just kind of all a little off with each other. The first half we started pretty bad. How many passes to the corner or wing or whatever, how many were at someone's feet or off to the side, and then they have to swing back? And I get it. They're NBA players. They shoot great numbers and stuff like that. They should be able to knock those down. The percentage of that shot getting made dramatically drops when you throw those types of passes. That is the difference between a great passing playmaker and someone who just is able to put up numbers because high usage.
Very true. The difference from receiving the ball right here to shooting to having to grab your ankle or way over to the side is at least probably a 15% difference, maybe even 20.
Right. And I feel like we kind of mentioned it a little bit a few times. We didn't really fully dive into it before we end this. I feel like we have to really dive into freaking Chris Dunn. Holy shit. You talk about when we make adjustments. Chris Dunn doesn't touch the court after his normal minutes the first half. He comes in the second half and just takes over this game. He causes a fight with Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith is trying to throw him around, and he's just kind of like laughing at him, holding him. Like, this is not you. Right? You don't want this. This is not the smoke you want. And I'd like to see a different angle because it looked like Jabari Smith threw a punch.
Kind of looked like
he kind of swung under weird. It was weird.
Odd.
It was weird. But Chris Dunn, then all of a sudden our whole team responds. And our team starts to show more physicality. Several times he picks guys' pockets. He ends up getting a fast break dunk off of it. He had 10 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 0 turnovers. I think maybe missed a shot. I don't remember if but he turns down obviously not a great pull-up three-point shooter. After all that happens, walks down the court, pulls up from three, nothing, just drills it, and it's just like, man, this is a bad freaking mother effort.
Ice in the veins, man.
Oh my gosh. And it's why I would have loved to see those minutes with Keyonte George. I would have loved to play less either Sexton or Clarkson minutes and allow Keyonte George to play next to Chris Dunn, because now Keontae's not just on the bench watching it. Keontae's on the court because Keyonte takes a play off or whatever like that on defense. Chris Dunn, who has been in Keontae's ear the entire season, has been his biggest freaking leader and mentor on this team, is going to pull him aside and say, listen, we don't do this shit, right? That's what you get from Chris Dunn, which is why I would love to see Keyonte with him. But man, this is a moment. It shows more in the box score this game than it normally does with Chris Dunn. But there are so many things. He makes a play. You're never going to see it on the box score. He makes a play, fast break, they go up, they miss. He kind of bobbles with it. He's falling out of bounds. Jabari Smith is about to catch it and get an easy layup, and it would have given them the lead, I think, at that time, a 1-point lead. And as he's falling, he turns and slaps the ball to the corner. Clarkson makes a great hustle play and ends up getting a foul, but a great hustle play. They end up just taking a side out. I think they miss on that possession, but those are just the little types of things that Chris Dunn will give you that will never show up on a box score. That will never show up on any sort of stat you can see. But that is how you win a game.
And if you've ever been on a team, in a team sport, when you have a teammate that goes above and beyond and shows toughness and you're running over there to help them up, hell yeah, dude, come on. I mean, it energizes you up. It makes everybody on the team want to fight. So it just basically gives exponential improvement to the energy and the fight level of your team as you're going down the stretch of a game. When he came down and made that three, I mean, you remember in the game, as he lines up on that shot, I stand up and I'm like, if he hits this shot, dude,
nowhere
ice
near his
in the
game.
veins. No, that's not his game. But he just got done staring down Jabari Smith, 5 inches taller than him, and laughing at him.
He's such a mean dude that it's like, I had so much confidence he was going to make
dude.
that three just because he's so freaking mean.
And he's laughing at their crowd and all the people jibber-jabbering at him. And then he comes down and hits an above the break three, which is not his game. And he's just like, look at me. Because I'm in my zone and you're in my world now of fighting, I'm gonna hit a three and show you.
Everyone responds, right? Everyone on the Jazz responds to that. And all of a sudden we have way more energy as a team. And it was like, let's freaking go. And it's truthfully, it's a perfect example of the things that just piss me off about Jordan Clarkson, right? You talked about
opposite spectrum players, right?
Yeah. You know, something that I didn't mention in the Thunder game, being at the game, you see certain things. There's a moment in the game where our entire team's huddled up, fired up, and Hardy's yelling at the team and ready to go, and it's a great moment. The entire team's engaged. Clarkson's over under the hoop, just kind of dribbling a basketball, not even paying attention, not engaged with the team. It's hard to cheer for that kind of that because it's, as a teammate, it was like, why am I going to fight for you? You know, same thing tonight. There's 10 seconds on the freaking clock. There, you know, and I kind of mentioned this to you in
overtime.
Yes, and it's
Sengun is shooting his free throws.
He's shooting his free throws. The last possession, and this is just, I don't know, the mean kind of bastard that I am, the style of play I like. He's shooting his free throw, and Jordan Clarkson walks over to their bench and is dapping up Fred VanVleet and you know, kind of jokes with him for a sec and just kind of, you know, walks over. I don't have it in me. I don't know if I'm just too mean. I don't know. At that moment in the game, I don't want to see don't freaking talk to their team. Don't be freaking cool with anyone on their team. I want to beat the hell out of these guys. You can go be cool with them after the game. I don't give a shit. But in that moment, I need you locked in because we have one chance to win this game. And
so there's 8 seconds left when that happens.
And he goes and misses the next shot, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you say it's a shot that I'm always comfortable with him taking that shot wide open in a spot where he shoots a high proficiency. I get it, and I'm okay with that shot, and I'm okay with the shot he ends up taking. But man, to just be joking around and stuff with their bench, right as where we need to be, you need to be 100% locked in on this game. It's a difference, right? I will freaking go to war for a teammate like Chris Dunn. I'm not really gonna do much for a teammate like Clarkson. And I don't know if it's, like I said, it's who I am as a ball player, as you know, and as a fan. I don't know.
Yeah, so we were down 1. Sengun was shooting his free throws with 8.8 seconds left. That's exactly when that happened. Went over there, dapped him up, hugged him. I didn't notice at first. You took it back and said, "Look at this." And I'm like, "What?" So you're showing me over. It's right next. He walks all the way up right next to the Rockets bench. Does it? That's odd. That doesn't go down in old school basketball, right? Old school basketball, the vets on the team would pull him aside and say, "Hey, you know, you're 31, but you should know this already."
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's interesting. 2 players that are completely different, opposite ends of the spectrum as far as what their skill levels are.
For sure.
And I think that a player like Chris Dunn, the reason why we need to sign him for 2-3 more years.
Holy crap, yeah.
We need somebody on our team like that because when things get tough and when the games get real, those are the type of players we want to have out there.
I need Keontae during this time of serious development, if we seriously think he can be a star, I need a mentor like Chris Dunn to show him how you handle these types of games.
Yeah, that's a
and
valuable
a
lesson.
great one too. As the seasons down this 2-3 years down the road, maybe 3 years down the road, we're making a playoff run. Man, what a luxury would a guy like Chris Dunn be to have come off your bench.
Absolutely. And when you have offense for defense substitutions late in the game, or you need a stretch of toughness and to clamp something down.
And a guy who, whatever minutes you give him or whatever like that, he is engaged in the team. And that is something that Keontae did amazingly tonight. Keontae doesn't play a minute in the second half, where he's someone we obviously are very invested in. And he was the first one to get up and pop Kessler after his big play and be all pumped and stuff like that. I love seeing that kind of dynamic.
Yep. That shows that he's somebody who gets it, even though, normal feelings inside is, woe is me, right?
Yeah,
Want to
so
get up there and go. So,
but I couldn't end this video without freaking just raving about Chris Dunn, man.
love that dude. He's somebody who gets me up off the couch and yells at my inanimate object TV. He really gets the juices flowing for me. Imagine how it is out on the court. That's a fun group. So, some positive and negative signs out of a road game like this, which is what we want on these
For
road
sure.
trips, right?
100%.
That's one we'll look back on and probably feel that we should have had. But interesting, our battles in the Western Conference with the Rockets are going to be interesting this year. I think all the games will be.
Yeah, we play our next game Tuesday. I don't think we play till Tuesday.
Got a few days off.
I think we have a few days off. I know we just started our 6-game road stretch. I could be wrong, but I think we don't play again until Tuesday. I don't know.
Used to be so much better at knowing our schedule.
Used to be way more prepared. Either way, it was a fun game. It was fun to see. Chris Dunn made this game fun, man. Chris Dunn, Agbaji, the defensive players, they made this a fun battle to watch. A good growing learning lesson for this team.
I would like to see the next couple of road games for us to really come out and be stronger at the start of the game.
Yes.
Don't come out so naive, so nonchalant.
If we play the whole game how we did in the second half, we beat these guys by 10.
Yeah, and it felt like it wasn't really any huge team adjustments. I mean, we were handling their switches and some of their matchups a little bit better, and we had some sets out of timeouts that were pretty good second half, but I felt it really was just a little bit coming out naive, a little soft.
Yep.
Young team.
For sure. We've done this several times this year, so need to get better at that. But overall, fun game.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.